So, welcome to Gaule's Question Time again. Today, I've got the pleasure of being with Cilla McKay. Hi, Cilla.
Hi, Andrew. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, we've worked together on some programs on leadership and AI, so great to get into some of these topics in detail today.
Looking forward to it.
So, kick off, give us a brief introduction to yourself, please, and what you normally do, or what you've been doing for many years now.
Well, so normal is maybe not the way to describe it, Andrew, but yes, so I'm the founder and owner of Oxbow Consultancy, and I've been within the area of leadership, transformation and change for 25 plus years. And when I think about particularly where I'm focusing our energy and time in supporting clients at the moment, we really work with ambitious and progressive leaders who want to shape the future in ways that enable organizations not just to deliver high performance, but to sustain it for the long term. So that really then covers that breadth of consultancy and executive coaching in the areas of strategy, people, and then ways of working and processes that support that. So that's a nutshell. But it's 25 years of having seen a significant amount of change in the
Mhm.
leadership landscape and cultures and way organizations grow and develop as well.
Yeah, so give us some examples of organizations you work with and how you're engaging in the leadership in the change area. We'll get on to talking about AI
Mm.
specifically, but just let's talk more generally
Yeah,
first, just
yeah.
about this change process.
Well, what is so fascinating and exciting about being in sort of leadership change world is that no one organization is exactly the same, although a number of the key leadership challenges that they're facing are very, very similar as well. So I have the real pleasure over the past few years of working with significant number of large corporate financial services organizations who are going through service and sales transformation and change and also in the area of automotive after sales. So, and engineering organizations where the leadership culture and climate is really different as well, very leading with very different um, cultural norms and ways of operating. Right now, I've also got some really interesting consultancy startup businesses as well within the leadership space where the issues are different, but they are the same because they're still trying to be really clear around their North Star, their vision for the future, still wanting to unpack in really what their leadership culture and climate needs to look like to sustain performance, defining the behaviors that are going to deliver in a changing world that, in fact, where change not only as we used to describe it is the new normal, it is constant and daily and needing
Mhm.
real agile thinking in terms of the ability to be able to get to grips with what's going to be required tomorrow. And then also how they start to change the conversations that they have in their organizations, both with their customers and their clients and with each other. Because those conversations, and particularly when we come to AI, we can talk about that, are also changing every day. So yeah, it's a really interesting landscape of different organizations that we're working with, Andrew.
So this key change we're going through at the moment with AI, so I guess reflects back to like 25 years ago, right? We went through the internet and the dot-com sort of change, and organizations, be it in finance and banking, for example, maybe some
Yes.
of your customers, we used to go into branches, and now it's all online, and then it went through onto mobile phones and sort of stuff like that. How are you seeing the AI transformation now? Because we're going to see that bigger and faster from the clients I'm working with and what I'm seeing, bigger and faster than any other phase we've been through before. So, how are you seeing it in your organizations?
Well, I think there's one thing that I'm clearly seeing, and it's really useful perhaps to reiterate to for both of us that my lens never comes from being a brilliant technologist in this space. It comes from looking at leadership behavior and what is changing and reshaping there. And one thing that was without a doubt becoming really clear is that um, be able to develop leadership capabilities to leverage the future around AI, and in making sure that there's real clarity around vision, direction, and focus, as well as senior sponsorship, buy-in. That that requirement for that clear visioning and future focused is greater than it ever has been before. And also then the key, I suppose, paradoxes that we're trying to hold at the moment in a world of AI, future focused AI, between what the technology and it will be enabled to do and the fact that we need real human-centered activity at the heart of everything. So the key issues that I'm often facing is organizations wanting to talk about a vision for the future around their service for experience, for example, but actually driving programs of work that actually reduce the level of human interaction and contact to the
Hmm.
point where they're feeling that they're moving further away from that human-centered approach to what they need to do. And that is a real tension for them because the opportunities that AI are creating is one thing, but the ability to really get high into scores around customer experience engagement and NPS is another key driver that then
Yeah,
brings
yeah,
that into tension.
yeah, yeah. Well, you've touched on a few points there, really, which I often talk about. So you
Yeah.
talk about the vision. I talk about
Yeah.
that as my purpose. What's
Yes.
the key purpose and mission and that
Yeah.
you've got? And then process. How is the process going to change? How's your business process going to change? And as you're saying, AI is going to be bringing in here where the systems, the AI systems now can do a lot of the work that people would have done before. Or
Yes.
what I'm finding a number of organizations I'm working with, the AI is doing things that you couldn't afford people to do, or they couldn't do it at the time, right? So being able to answer the calls outside hours on a Friday
Yes.
evening or on a Saturday
Absolutely.
morning,
Yeah.
the AI is not as good as a person who's maybe highly trained and but highly expensive, but it's good enough. And as a customer, if you're dialing into have your tires changed or to get some information on your bank account or to get other information, if the AI can interact in a voice way or online sort of type way, then isn't that better than not having that alternative or having to wait a long time and that on the phone? It is a key thing for the customer, but also for the workers. But it's a changing process, isn't it, for within these organizations?
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And it's a complete change of thinking. And it's also taking a step back and then looking to reimagine the world you want to be part of with your customer in the future as well. And I think that's often where the mistakes come in because there is a excitement around the activity that can happen without a doubt bringing really immediate and short-term benefits as well as long-term impact.
Mhm.
But leaders who are really going to shape the future, where AI is a significant part of and an evolving part of what they do, they they are in control of that shaping rather than being just surviving it or being modeled around it. So they're fundamentally really asking a different set of questions, I think.
Mhm.
They're asking, it's not should we adopt AI to be out of our service, although brilliant that that would be in terms of cost saving. The conversation is about what sort of organization do we want to become in this space and how does AI then serve that ambition? And the great example that you gave there is starting to move the conversation towards what does that experience out of ours need to look like and how does that fit within the whole ecosystem service experience that we want?
Yeah. But how are you finding in the organizations you're working with at the moment in their understanding of what AI is? Because I've been running workshops now over 3 years, right?
Yeah,
Getting executives to the early days of GPT and Claude and showing them examples,
yeah,
showing them HeyGen, showing them video work and sort of stuff
yeah,
like that. But we found we got to the summer of last year and we were getting responses from organizations that, oh no, we're doing AI now. We've
yeah.
implemented Copilot. And it's like, okay, so it can summarize some emails and it can write longer emails and sort of stuff
Yes,
like that. But the understanding of what it can really do and how it can change process, we're still finding a big gap there at the executive
absolutely.
level, but also then the executives, if they do understand her a bit, how do they inform and train their teams and around the understanding of what
Yeah,
AI has got the potential of doing? How are you finding that training and that knowledge being able to be
yeah.
dispersed?
It's such a great question. And as you kind of imagine, there is so many different answers to it as well. I'm a real divide in terms of understanding. So I had an experience last week where I was running a value proposition and sales workshop for a smaller one consultancy business as one of my clients. And they're in a particularly regulatory environment, so quite a niche environment. And one of the most important things for them was starting to think clearly about their own differentiation and their value proposition. And they're very aware that they're competing in a world where AI will be taking significant number of the activities that a pure consultancy business might actually deliver. And yet they it would be fair to say that they were really apprehensive and quite nervous about how they might use AI themselves. So this is on one scale where not even really even dabbled into this, but with a full recognition that their customers and clients would be wanting this. And we just showcase some really interesting examples by putting into just using simple tools like Claude, looking at an analysis of their own organization in terms of how they might be perceived in the external world, and then looking at this through the lens of all their competitors as well. And all of a sudden, the light bulb clicked. So at one level, moving from real very little understanding and knowledge and application into, my goodness, we cannot leave this alone. We really need to
Yeah,
take a look at this because it's shaping how other organizations might engage with us through
yeah.
sales process into the future. So that's at one level. And on the other level, we're still getting one of my other clients, he's much more looking at AI, who's much more advanced in their thinking, but they're treating AI literacy as a sort of leadership competency. So it's much more about how do we then apply and learn and use tools in the right way. But again, the danger there is that that could just be isolated without the piece that we talked about earlier around clear North Star and direction as
Mhm.
well. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that balance, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
until you understand what the capabilities of the system are doing, can do, it's very difficult for you to vision how this thing is going to move forward and that really,
Yeah.
because until you get that wow moment with the internet, with the
Yeah.
mobile phone and sort of stuff like that, you can't sort of imagine it. And now I think the capabilities of the technologies
Yeah.
is way ahead of what any organization can implement in any sort of timeline in terms of being able to train and change processes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
got to start getting that balance of getting on the journey and that of individuals sort of changing and improving their skills and sort of stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yes. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
suppose a provocative view I've put onto the programs that I've been running is talking about people are so central, right, to
Yes.
your purpose and your process and how you work with
Mm.
organizations. So, but now within that people space, I think there are now AI workers. So
Yes.
this is coming in a few months'
Yeah.
time. You as a leader are going to say, well, okay, I could now have hundreds of AI workers answering the phone, doing queries, creating documents,
Yes.
doing parts of processes that previously your team members would have done, or you might have outsourced somewhere else.
Yes.
So, how are you starting to think about how executives should be managing sort of AI workers in their resources within organization?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think the who are doing the best job in this space are really starting to think about how they design human and AI collaboration, not replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of that leadership style, if you think about any really great functioning matrix, and to be fair, since COVID with remote working and the way that ecosystems and matrix working have evolved, then we've had to become more used to managing and leading in this way anyway, with multiple touch points, many of which we don't engage with face to face.
Yeah.
So I think there is, but this is taking it to another level and thinking about, what's going on in my team, what does my then team become capable of doing when AI handles that routine? What can I then start to enhance around the type of work that they do? And then Um, and the reframing then changes both the hiring into that team, the development of that team, and how you structure the work within the team
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
well. So I think it's an interesting one that probably we haven't got the full answers to yet as we see how things evolve. I would say it would be one to watch. But the ability, you can't bring a team meeting together with an AI worker. But what you can do is just, if you were really thinking about that critical element around team engagement, be thinking about the work, the quality of the outcomes that that team is producing because of what's underpinning it
yeah,
within the AI
yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah,
And I think that's an interesting one for us to watch.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and uh, I think one of the points you touched on at the start is about AI augmenting what the
Yeah.
people want to do, and I'm very
Yes.
much a believer on that. I
Yes.
do not believe this thing about AI is going to take over all of the sort of processes. So I think where is AI good at the moment that it
Yeah.
can do things that are mundane and it's difficult for
Yeah.
people to do. So one of the examples we started working on nearly 3 years ago now was I'm a founding member of an investment group.
Yes.
And one of the drudgery things we all had to do each quarter while we were doing these things was opening emails, reading pitch decks, just seeing do they meet the
Yeah.
criteria where
Yeah.
we can help those sort of those startups. So
Yeah.
basic stuff like are they raising the right amount of money? Have they got the right tax breaks? Are they in the right sort of locations and that where we sort of support them? And it would take us hours and hours just opening and reading these
Yeah.
things for no added value. Now the AI can look at those and say, okay, here's the ranking, and these are the ones that certainly meet the criteria. These are the ones that you need to do a bit more work with and sort of stuff like that, right?
Yes.
That frees up more time for us then actually to give feedback to the what to those entrepreneurs, and also frees up time that we can take those more forward. So I think for any organizations, they need to look at the roles and the tasks that the AI can do better. And then, as we touched on earlier, where AI can do things that it was not cost effective for people to do, but when those tasks are done by AI, it then frees up your people and frees up new business opportunities, cutting costs, im- improving service, improving revenue, and you can expand your business. And if you don't do it, your competitors are going to do it as part of the
Yeah.
challenge. But
And
that,
there's,
as you sort of said, that's really the thing which is now in the state of change for organizations to start thinking.
yeah. And the example with the consultancy operation that we were talking with 2 weeks ago became exactly that because the outcome for them is improving engagement and conversion on a significant number of inbound inquiries. And think about the physical people hours that would be associated with the level of research that ideally this organization needs to do to increase their conversion levels.
Yeah,
And right now it's not happening. So
yeah,
how do we improve that? And our percentages need to improve. Well, the building in is really careful, curious questions with the use of AI at the start of that process to start to categorize and qualify the inbound inquiries that are coming in have meant then that the individuals that were doing the core part of the work who have the knowledge can be really retained in doing that with really much deeper insight.
yeah,
And that might have been done by an assistant that would have been costing them 25,000 a year minimum, just even an entry level role. So yeah, that's be those are the sorts of things where we've got to work around. But
yeah,
also then how do you make sure that you use the data and the information and the outcomes that's in the right way in terms of them making those key decisions
yeah,
at the
yeah,
next step? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, okay, important points there that you know the data becomes so important, but people haven't got the time or haven't got the resources or the capabilities to be able to do that job that AI now can do very
Exactly.
cheaply, very quickly, to then, as you said, improve the output that then takes it
Yeah.
forward. And we've seen that in so many cases in
Yeah.
organizations we're working with and in use cases of AI,
Yes.
that step up just improves the whole sort of process and that
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see the North Star? Where do you see the organizations and leaders now
Um,
need to change? What's the thing they need to focus on?
yeah, so what do those, so a good question to think about, what do those progressive, ambitious leaders that we want to work with need to be thinking about, really? Well, I think, as we said earlier, that they need to be thinking about how they are co-creators and shapers rather than survivors
Mm,
of this. And therefore asking those fundamental different questions that we've said. And this comes back to the foundational transformation models that we use within Oxbow. So in some ways, the the way that we do this hasn't changed particularly. It's just the context has changed with it. And any great leader who is really committed to creating a compelling vision and then in being clear around what that North Star is for them and designing a future that not only themselves but their teams would want to be part of, I think is the key piece there. So we talk first of all about, the pioneering creative energies that leaders need to have to think like that, and also how they create enough space for themselves to the biggest barrier to that is perceived time. Now we know that isn't really the reality because we
mm,
manage ourselves and we don't manage time, but it is perceived that way that there is just not enough space and there's too much noise for
yeah,
leaders
yeah,
to create the right space. So that's a core principle first. And then thinking about their skills and capabilities at leading people through that change process, leading people through a changing landscape. We might feel that it feels straightforward. Many leaders really struggle with leading change. They can see
yeah,
why it's necessary, they sometimes buy into it, but actually then enabling and facilitating that change process is really difficult. But alongside that, investing in creating cultures and environments of psychological safety alongside the technology, so that people, if they need to feel safe to be able to experiment and get things wrong,
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Certainly, that's going to be the case. Yeah, for
yeah,
experimenting and
yeah,
yeah,
it's not always going to work. And cultures that then have repercussions when things fail start to freeze the that creative energy in the face of AI adoption, really. So we're looking at that, and probably most importantly, and lastly, staying really curious rather than certain. So the ability to be able to always adopt a curious mindset. And we're finding that leaders who are thriving generally around leading change tend to hold their views lightly so that they're running experiments, they're building the networks, they're staying close to what's emerging, they're really understanding what's going on. And I'm encouraging, particularly in some of my larger clients who are in the past pro automotive space, is in really ensuring that they get the external view and start networking much more to see what other organizations are actually doing rather than becoming quite tunnel visioned around their own capabilities.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Wow.
partnerships and understanding those
Yeah,
capabilities is so important in this
yeah,
sort of space because so the technology is moving so fast, and you can't build this sort of stuff internally. It's a big
yeah,
enough challenge getting it tailored for
exactly.
your organization and doing that change process inside, as you're sort of saying,
Yeah,
than just just trying to build it yourself. Because I think there's a big myth now, a big challenge about, oh well, you can knock together a website, you can knock together
yes,
processes now with AI. That's going to cause issues in many organizations, I think,
yeah,
going forward. So you need to partner
exactly.
effectively in that there. So great, Cilla. It's been great listening to you. Thank you very much about your co-creators, managing change, managing culture, and I think being curious and being open to that is going to be so important now for leadership and people in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Curiosity is the competitive advantage. That's the last message to lead, really. Because without curiosity, then yeah, we become very narrow in our thinking.
Great. Thank you so much, Cilla.
Thank you, Andrew.